The objective of this one is to examine different branches and then its association to which cone it belongs to. So Will Husky made this spin the cone guy, and we're going to put some WD-40 on it, but that's what these are not going to stay. I made another set that will be in the elf closet just in case these break, but I only have 2 sets. So I think what the object of this is, you're going to set these around the spinner. I think there's 6 of them. And I even included these guys, little berries that come from juniper trees, cedar trees. All right. So you're going to somehow, you don't have to have them on the board, but like on the counter somewhere, or on the carpet. And then you're going to spin the cone, and then each kid takes a turn, and then you're going to read the clue on the card. Here's a pinion poem that says, I belong to an evergreen tree whose needles grow in groups of 3. So then you match it up. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this. You're going to have these set up in a line somewhere near the spinner, all the different kinds. So got a whole bunch of. So there'll be like 6 kinds. And this one, I left. I mean, we're seeing these all over town.
Red cedar.
Yes. No, it's not a cedar tree.
Red pine.
Yes. But anyway, it's got cones that just started growing this last spring, and I left those on because it actually matches up to this guy. That's what they look like when they fall off and dry up. So it'll have a clue on there. My branch has needles about 4 inches long, and we included rulers so the kids can kind of get an idea of how long 4 inches are, especially the little guys. My branch has new baby cones that shows what I used to look like, which kind of goes along with the puppet show. So, and then my branch has short, about 3/4 of an inch long, somewhat prickly needles that grow all around the branch. It's the Colorado State tree. So they have to kind of identify and feel and encourage them to touch as much as possible. I mean, we definitely want them into this stuff.
Do you have the answers on the back?
We do. The other group I labeled. I'll have them labeled by tomorrow. Okay? So anyway, oh, and the pinion one's really fun. I belong to an evergreen tree whose needles grow in groups of 3. The needles are about 3/4 of an inch or smaller where there is new growth. You will taste my pine seeds later. And so that one goes with this guy. And how I described how it has some long needles and then it has some little tiny short ones where it's new growth. But there's some like little tiny ones growing on there. So I tried to have like semi-easy clues. So, but anyway, that's 1/2 of this. And then also you can spend a little bit of time describing like how like a 1-year-old twig looks completely different than a 2-year-old twig, and it's a 2-year cycle. So the buds on the 1-year-old tree, and then there's the little tiny pollen. This is how trees like reproduce themselves. There's pollen in the spring, and they swell in clusters, and then all of a sudden you see pine pollen everywhere on your cars. You can ask them if they've ever seen it in the spring, and they get allergies and all this kind of stuff. And then in the late spring, the new seeds cones appear, like in the one I showed you here. Okay, and then they grow straight up, they're gumdrop, they're soft and they're green, and then the pollen matures, and then they're exposed to air, pollen splits, and then it's carried, it's either by gravity or by the wind, and then it falls into the other cones where it fertilizes the seed. And then, let's see, and then the older cones, we've all seen like older type cones hanging upside down on a tree. Those are the ones that have been fertilized and everything. The seeds have fallen out. And it said in the book that there's some of them, they're nearly 20 years old and they can still be on the evergreen tree. So, I mean, some of them stay on there for a really, really long time. But then you go into the 2-year-old twig, how much the cones have changed, and how the needles have grown, and the whole 2-year cycle. So,
What produces the pollen?
it just automatically happens in the spring. There's nothing that actually produces it. It's the little tiny guys. Let me show you. Okay, it's these little tiny guys right here.
They're kind of whitish or yellowish.
Oh,
They're usually at the tips of the branches.
Yep. And it's only in the spring. And then they give off the pollen that fertilizes the seeds.
What do the egg ones look like? That's those are the pollen ones, right?
So these are the egg
Oh,
ones.
those are the egg ones?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So those aren't little baby pine cones?
No. I mean, they're called cones, but they are not actual pine cones. They're never going to grow into a pine cone. So, okay. And then I'm trying to see. Pine cones, this is just FYI, this is probably information I would share with older kids. They do not have an ovary, so they're called geosperms. And it's a naked seed. It's totally exposed on top of the cone scale. So like when we dissect some of these cones, you will actually be able to see the seed in there. Okay? And then on junipers and yews, the berries are also naked ovules. So the little berries that I showed you on that card earlier, that is also what fertilizes it. Let's see. Yes. I think that's about it on this. Okay, so that is half this unit. And then you move on to leaf rubbings. And if you're the volunteer for this station, you're going to bring in fresh leaves of all different kinds of varieties and basically have the kids do a leaf rubbing. And it says to put the leaf upside down on the bottom part. And then you take a crayon and you just rub it. We have crayons that are all shaved off. Here they are. I've got some bigger ones too. But they're all peeled, so they're easy to lay on its side and just go like this. And then some of the littler guys, you got to kind of tell them to try to not go over the border area of where the actual leaf is. But I mean, it's all good if they do. And then if they want to take the time to look through these handouts, like are they lobed, are they toothed, and kind of do some of the descriptions of what the characteristics of the leaf is, and even the type of leaf. So, and we will not have paper quite this big, it'll be a little bit smaller than this, full size. So, and then obviously always have them put their name on it and put it in the sack for the Friday folder. So, that's it on this one. Center 5. This is the one where always